Have you ever felt the frustration of getting someone booked in for a sales call or registered for a webinar, and then you're speaking to an empty chair? They just don't show up. In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix that problem and potentially double your show rates by going through this sequence that we're going to talk about on here. So, firstly, what is the objective of a show rate sequence? So, there's 4 objectives. Number 1 is to get them to show up. Because if they don't show up, you can't sell anything, right? Number 2 is to train people to take action. If they take action, then they're more likely to take further action, right? It's called sunk cost bias. So once someone has already invested their time, energy, attention, money, right, then they're more likely to go and do more of that in the future with you, as long as they have a good experience. The third thing is pre-framing the sale. So actually building the frame that happens before they get to the pitch or on the call, where they're already thinking about that outcome. They're already thinking about you as the solution to their problem. And then number 4 is build rapport. So if you are not building rapport beforehand, then it means you've got a lot more work to do when you get on the webinar or the sales call, right? So let's break these down in a little bit more detail. So firstly, getting them to show up, right? So, well, how do we do that? Firstly, we want to get them to add it to their calendar. So on the thank you page, when someone either books a call or registers for a webinar, what you want to do is make sure they add it to their calendar at that particular time. Because if it's in the calendar, it's more likely to happen, right? So there's a few like calendar widget tools out there as well. This can be a little bit tougher if you're doing it on an evergreen webinar, but certainly on a live webinar or on a call, right? You want to make sure that that's gone into their calendar and you're getting them to check that calendar, right? And then you want to make sure they feel confident that they will get the outcome. Because if they're not confident that they're going to get the outcome, they're not going to show up, right? They clicked on something and then they registered for something or they booked something, right? Because they thought by doing that, that would get them the outcome that they're looking for. Now, your job is to not screw it up on the thank you page or before the call. So if you are either getting people not showing up or when they get on the call, they go, what do you do then? Then something's gone wrong, right? The second piece is training people to take action. If you train people to take action before the call, they're more likely to take action moving forward. So how do we do that? Well, we do that through a couple of things. Number 1 is micro commitments, right? Like getting them to add it to their calendar, getting them to click on a link in an email after they've already registered or booked a call, right? So sending them extra resources before the call and say, hey, I want you to reply to this to confirm that you're going to be attending, right? And then reward good behavior. So that sounds like more like dog training, right? However, like the same psychological principles apply with humans, mammals, across the board. When we get rewarded for good behavior, then we do more of the action, right? It's the whole carrot or stick. So how do you get a donkey to move? Well, you can dangle the carrot on the end of the stick, right? And put the carrot in front of him, keep moving forward, or you can hit him with a stick. So you can do positives or negatives. Now, if you're rewarding good behavior, which means, hey, you just took this action by booking a call or registering, I'm going to give you a quick win right now, right, for doing that. And the more you can figure out, this is a real nice part and with you, and I don't want you to kind of go, oh yeah, sounds nice, Paul, right? What I'm about to share with you, if you do this to the nth degree, your show rates will increase. Not just your show rates will increase, your close rates will increase, your sales performance will increase. If you can get someone who has just taken an action, like booking a call or registering for a webinar, and you can give them something that gives them a tangible win in that next 3 to 5 minutes, doesn't need to be a big win, right? It's not like, hey, click this button and you're going to have $1 million in your bank account. That's not what we're looking for. It's what is one specific piece of their bigger problem that you can solve for them in that 30 seconds. Because if you can do that, then naturally they're going to do more business with you in the future, right? A great example of this is what Dan Henry used to do with his first ever webinar. If you don't know who Dan Henry is, a guy taught things about getting clients, right? Might be considered a little bit controversial for some people, how his style. However, it was really effective. So what he did on his webinar is when it got towards the end of the webinar, he basically gave them a script, right, that they could go and post on social media. And it was like this curious student script. Off the back of that, people would reply and say, hey, I'm interested in that. And he was like, so you come on the webinar and he says, I'm going to help you get clients. And by the end of the webinar, you've already got people interested in your services. And now you're like, how do I fulfill on that? So what he's done is solve a first piece of the problem, not a scalable way, but he's given that first taste, right? It's like the cheese at the supermarket, the grocery store. It's just like, do you want to try a sample? That tastes good, right? You want the rest of the block now. So rewarding that good behavior, like what can you give someone up front that then gives them that first win? So by the time they get on the call, by the time they get on the webinar, they're already excited to be there because you've already given them value. Crazy idea, right? Actually give people value. So then the next piece, reframing the sale. Let's break that down. What do we mean by pre-framing the sale? So there's one of the psychological pieces of influence is a really good book by Robert Cialdini called Persuasion. Highly recommend to check that out. Pre-framing the sale means if you ask certain questions or get people to do certain actions before the main action you want them to do, they are more likely to take that next action. So an example from Persuasion, I think the question, like, correct me if I'm wrong on this and that, and that's okay, but it was something like, hey, do you consider yourself a generous person? Or do you consider yourself a helpful person? They ask that question first before they ask for donations. Then the donations go up, right? So the pre-frame can make a big difference. Now, for example, let's say someone went to your registration page, right, or your book a call page, and they've just come from a blog post that says how much of a scammer you are and all these people that you've ripped off. What do you think the likelihood is that you're going to close that sale? Pretty low. However, if you just come from someone who's wrote a blog about you that's absolute like rave review of like this is the best thing ever, what do you think the chances are of closing that sale? Probably a lot higher, right? So the more you can control the pre-frame, the better the outcome's going to be. So one of those things is social proof. And when I say social proof, it's how do we create that tangible result for that person, right? What's the promise that that person's going to get out the call or the webinar? And then in turn, from that, what's all the social proof that backs that up beforehand? Because you want that prospect who's coming through to paint the picture in their own mind to go, that's what I said I signed up for. And look at all these people doing the same thing. I want to be like them, right? And then give them results in advance. That goes back to kind of rewarding good behavior. How can you get someone a result before they even experience the main course, right? How can you make a starter so good or the amuse-bouche so good, right? By the time they get to the main, they are like, wow, this is so tasty. And by the way, I think the amuse-bouche might come after the main. All good. And then building rapport, right? Is it conversational? So if you've ever signed up for a call for something or whatever, but you have registered for a webinar and you get the emails and it's like, reminder, at this date and time, we will be speaking. Please add to your calendar, right? Not the greatest buying experience, is it? Why? Because people buy from what? People. Simple. So if people buy from people, the best thing to do is make yourself sound like a human, not a frigging robot. So being conversational in the messages, like everyone's like, I say everyone, a lot of people feel really like they have to be uptight in their emails, right? They need to be super professional, but that's not the world we live in anymore. The world that we live in now is actual people buy from people, and they've always have done. However, there's almost a bit more of an expectation of kind of like, oh, Like, I see you, I get you, I understand you, right? People don't want to buy from a big corporate. They want to buy from Joe Bloggs down the end of the street. They want to buy from someone that's got a face that they can trust. This is why personal brand and everything has become so much more important, right? And then you want to find out their goal. So when we talk about being conversational, one of the other things that we want to look at is how can we get a reply? How can we get a response? Because what does that do? It gets them to take action. So if they take action, they're more likely to take the next action. So think about this. If you want to find out that goal, well, how would you do that? Well, maybe you message them beforehand. Hey, can you just respond like, what's your biggest question when it comes to whatever you sell, right? And I'm going to take all those questions and I'm going to compile them together. And the most common ones are going to answer it at the end of the webinar, right? Super simple thing you can do to improve the show rates. Second thing on there is great. We've got to find out what their questions are and stuff like that. But you also might just want to, if they booked a call, say, hey, we get a lot of people book a call, and I just want to make sure that you're receiving these messages and everything's going through, and just confirming that you're happy with that scheduled time. And so just reply and let me know that you received this message and that you'll be there. Simple as that, right? Doesn't need to be like, here's benefit, trying to sell. Just be human. Human's always a good starting point. Then you can go and add AI or whatever to the human experience. So here's some of the show rate metrics you want to be looking at. Number 1, show rate. Number 2, offers made. Or if you're on a webinar, how many people actually got to the offer part. Number 3, close rate. Right? So why do you want to look at all of those 3 and not just look at the show rate on its own? Because if you look at the show rate on its own, I maybe could get a 70% show rate, right? Let's say we get 100% show rate. Wow, crazy. Yeah? So you get 100% show rate. Problem is, you're not making offers to any of those. Why did they show up? Because you said, hey, if you show up to the call, then I will give you $1,000. Okay. And here's a screenshot of all these people that I've given $1,000 to, right? Now you've added some proof to back that up. Well, why would you give me $1,000, right? But they're going to turn up because they're like, well, this person says they're going to give me $1,000, so I'm going to give them at least 5 minutes of my time to check it out. Okay. However, that's not congruent with your offer, is it? So, like, you get people to show up, but you're not going to actually be able to. You might make your offer, but then guess what? Even if you make your offer, you're probably not going to close a lot. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. So this is why we need to look at what are the lead metrics, okay, and what are the lag metrics. So lead metrics are those things that kind of like are happening every day, happening up front, at the front end. And then the lag metrics are like what happens as a result of that. So it's kind of like it's not problems and solutions, but it's kind of like that process of what happens before, what action needs to happen, and then what's the result of those actions. Okay? So it's inputs and outputs. Then how do we build a good show rate flow? So this can work a very similar way in webinars as it works in calls. So firstly, when they register or book a call, you want to send them a voicemail drop. How do you send a voicemail drop? Well, and what is a voicemail drop? So a voicemail drop is something where you send a voicemail straight to their phone. It doesn't ring, or they call it a ringless voicemail, right? What happens sometimes, it will ring once and it goes ring, ding, and then it'll cut off. And then it will send a voicemail straight to them. So that voicemail creates quite a personalized experience. One of the things you want to do with this, right? Pro tip, grab your actual phone, the phone to your ear when you do it. Why? Because like physiology says that you will feel more like you're recording a voice message rather than reading a script and going, hello, I noticed you registered for the webinar, right? You just need to be conversational. It needs to feel unpolished. It needs to feel like you've just recorded it. So quite often it's got ums and ahs in there. So, you know, it might be something like, hey, just wanted to drop you a quick message. I noticed you just registered for the webinar. Really excited to have you on there. You're going to learn this and this and this. So if you haven't already, just make sure you get it added to your calendar. And once you've added it to your calendar, then I've sent you actually a free gift over as well to watch before the webinar. That will help you get this result. And yeah, I'm excited to hear how you got on with that when we get onto the webinar. So excited to see you there, and I will see you at blah 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 time. Right? Pretty simple. It's like 1 minute voice message, if that. You could literally pull the transcript out of this video if you want and just do whatever you want. Confirmation email. So send the confirmation email. You got to get them to take action. Get them to take action before the call on the thank you page. You want them to do some pre-call homework. And when I say homework, it's not about like, you know, going and doing your GCSEs or like your exams over and over again. It's about getting them to take an action that gets them a result. Get them to add the calendar, get them to watch the social proof, all that stuff, right? And then you've got the SMS that you want to send out as well. The SMS should send them back to what? Well, it should confirm the time, and then it should send them back to, hey, I give you a free gift. Go and get the free gift. Then 24 hours before, you send an email. 1 hour before, you send an email. 2 minutes before, you send an SMS. And again, conversational, right? So if you go and book a call with me, you won't see an SMS 2 minutes before that just says, confirming your time is coming up in 2 minutes. Rubbish. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it says because, like, you know, if you want to book a call, then you'll see what it says. That's called an open loop. However, a lot more conversational than that. So then the next piece, when we're looking at the conversational tips, so number 1, email and SMS. Here's the 3-step process for getting emails and SMSs tighter and more conversational. Number 1, speak in a one-on-one style, right? So you're speaking to one person, not like, hey guys, or hey, when some of our blah, 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 blah. It's just like, you know, hey Paul, saw you booked in your call, really excited for you. You're going to be learning this and this and this, blah, 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 right? We're going to be going through this. And hey, can you just respond to this email and just let me know you got it and that everything's in your calendar ready for the time you'll be there, right? Super simple. Ask a question, get a response. Use their language patterns as much as possible. So if we get too uptight, we're not going to be using their language patterns. What we want to be doing is actually using the language patterns that they're using, right? So if they say, oh, I'm really frustrated that my business is not growing, we don't want to be saying, you're probably really angry right now that your business is not growing, right? And where do we get that data from? Well, we get it from the sales calls, we get it from the chats on the webinar, we get it from the comments in the ads, we get it from the Reddit posts, the forums, right? Where do we get it from? We do our research, right? Pull the research, pull those phrases that people are saying in their language. If you speak their language, if you're speaking Spanish to a German who doesn't speak Spanish, you're not going to get a very good response, are you? Right? So I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn the other day, and their invite message, I think, was in German or Spanish. I don't even know what language it was, to be honest, but it was in a different language. I'm English. I didn't read it because I was like, I don't understand what this means. Right? Now, I could have gone and Google Translated or whatever, but they made it hard for me. So if you make it easy, the easier you make it, the more, as Joe Sugarman says, the more slippery the slope, the more chance they've got of going further down the funnel. So you've got to lubricate your funnel, right? The more you lubricate the funnel, the more slippy that slide is going to be. And the more likely they're going to pop out and close the sale at the end. And as we mentioned, voicemail drops, hold the phone to your ear, make it a lot easier that way. So there's some top tips. Think about your 4 objections of the show rate sequence, getting them to show up, train people to take action, pre-frame the sale and build rapport, and then walk through the key show rate metrics, show rate, offers made, and close rate, and then run them through your show rate flow, voicemail drop, confirmation email, SMS 24 hours before email, 1 hour before email, 2 minutes before SMS, get them to complete actions before the call, and you're going to be in a good spot. So as always, let me know in the comments what you thought of that, what you want to see more of, and like and subscribe. Have a great one.